Imagine a seemingly insignificant factory nestled beside an overgrown lot in southern China's industrial heartland, suddenly transforming into a critical bottleneck for the world's automotive chip supply, proving once more that even the most mundane components can derail global production. This gripping tale of disruption underscores how fragile our interconnected supply chains truly are, and why it's time to rethink how we safeguard them. But here's where it gets controversial. What if geopolitical tensions aren't just temporary hurdles, but deliberate strategies to leverage economic power? Stick with me as we dive deep into the Nexperia chip saga, unpacking the lessons, the oversights, and the high-stakes game of international business that most people overlook. Summary companies. China's stronghold on supply chains isn't limited to high-tech marvels. It extends to everyday parts that can halt worldwide manufacturing. Auto manufacturers neglected to internalize warnings from previous supply chain upheavals, according to industry insiders. The Dutch authorities backed away from seizing control of Nexperia, hinting at a possible resolution on the horizon. Dongguan, China, November 24, Reuters. Tucked away next to a neglected, weed-strewn patch of land in China's bustling southern industrial zone, a single factory has emerged as a pivotal obstruction in the flow of automotive chips, shaking up an industry that only recently pledged never to fall victim to supply chain breakdowns again. Car producers had committed to bolstering their supply networks following the pandemic-induced semiconductor production hit in 2020, compounded by a fire at a Japanese facility that worsened shortages a year after. https://www.reuters.com/auto/transportation. The turmoil surrounding Nexperia's Dongguan site revealed a glaring weakness. The sector hadn't anticipated that basic low-tech chips could serve as a bargaining chip for China in its standoff with the West. Sign up here. No preparations were made for geopolitical upheavals, and preparations are still lacking, remarked Ambrose Conroy, head of the U.S. connection, based Serif Consulting, a firm that guides automakers through such challenges. In late September, the Netherlands government assumed control of Nexperia, headquartered in the Netherlands, out of fears that its know-how might be shared with its Chinese proprietor, Wingtech. 600745SS opens new tab. https://www.reuters.com/companies/0745. Beijing imposed a ban on exporting completed Nexperia chips assembled at the Pearl River Delta facility. Last week, the Dutch administration reversed its stance. https://www.reuters.com/retail consumer Dutch government suspends state intervention chipmaker Nexperia Statement 2025-11-19, suggesting a potential path to de-escalation. From its Dongguan operations, Nexperia distributes semiconductors essential for features ranging from vehicle braking systems to power-operated windows. Priced at just pennies each, their scarcity prompted Nissan and Honda, https://www.reuters.com/business/auto/transportation. Nissan Mercedes sound alarm over chip supply crisis. Continued shifting workers starting to cope with internal supply chains and difficulties during the pandemic. While German giant Bosch, https://www.reuters.com/business/auto/transportation/ shortened worker shifts to cope. This narrative, drawn from discussions with over a dozen individuals, including auto industry leaders, suppliers, and chip wholesalers, illustrates how reliance on just-in-time inventory and minimal supply chain variety rendered carmakers susceptible to international political shocks. For beginners in supply chain dynamics, think of just-in-time inventory as a lean approach to stockpiling only what's needed right away, minimizing storage costs, but it backfires when unexpected disruptions like this occur, leaving no buffer. The investigation also highlights how China's influence permeates not just advanced tech and rare earth minerals, but also these essential yet unexciting parts, and how Beijing can exploit this to stall global operations. Notably, details like the extent of Bosch's reliance and struggles with yuan-denominated trade requirements are being disclosed here for the first time. While the Dutch seized the Nijmegen headquarters, the Chinese-based activities stayed under Wingtech's purview. The Dutch believed they'd commandeered Nexperia, but all they captured was a corporate office space, explained Li Xing, an international relations expert at the Guangdong Institute for International Strategies, a research organization. It demonstrates that even for mid-range and basic product categories, dependence on China persists. If Beijing chooses to exert pressure, there's little escape. In a public statement, a Wingtech representative noted that Nexperia has risen to prominence under their ownership. This episode illustrates that dismantling international firms damages supply chains and endangers vital sectors, they added. China's Ministry of Commerce declined to provide comments. A Nexperia official pointed out that the semiconductor world's intricate global web made it difficult to predict political fallout. Case study for political risk. Nexperia's components were deemed so inexpensive and plentiful that one major European carmaker typically didn't arrange backup options, according to an insider from that company. These are straightforward electronic items with bargain basement costs, the source shared, requesting anonymity like most interviewed to protect sensitive disclosures. The Nexperia incident illustrates that producers' weaknesses go far beyond premium tech items, observed Alfredo Montufar Helu, a senior executive at Ancura Consulting in Beijing. Bosch initially lacked adequate substitutes, despite annually purchasing €200 million, $231 million in Nexperia goods, as per a knowledgeable insider. Bosch opted not to comment. Nexperia picked up sales to select local distributors in late October, but demanded settlement in yuan rather than prior foreign currencies. This shift appeared to be an effort by the Chinese arm to gain autonomy. https information from information.bta:217.3555. The Bosch initially lacked adequate substitutes, despite annually purchasing €200 million, but was deeply concerned by the Sport Commission. Nexperia picked up sales to select local distributors in late October, but demanded settlement in yuan rather than prior foreign currencies. This shift appeared to be an effort by the Chinese arm to gain autonomy. https information from information.bta:217.3555. Bosch opted not to comment. Nexperia picked up sales to select local distributors in late October, but demanded settlement in yuan rather than prior foreign currencies. This shift appeared to be an effort by the Chinese arm to gain autonomy. https information from information.bta:217.3555. Bosch China permitted some Nexperia shipments to restart this month following a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and China's Xi Jinping in Seoul. This timing was crucial for Bosch and partners like Aumovio, ZF Group, and Hella, who were on the verge of pausing certain productions, and briefed individuals stated. Bosch, Aumovio, and ZF chose not to respond. A Hella representative confirmed they've upheld supply chain steadiness. During a recent weekday visit to the Dongguan plant, some window coverings were shut, and delivery trucks moved in and out of the loading zone. Numerous mopeds stood parked nearby. Austria's Melex and Jabil, which supply automakers, didn't learn lesson. The shortage revealed that carmakers ignored takeaways from the prior turmoil, said Julie Boot, an auto expert at Pelham Smithers Associates in London. One might assume they'd maintain several months of chip reserves, she commented. That's what was promised after the last episode. Nissan Chief Performance Officer Guillaume Cartier acknowledged that overhauling fragile supply lines requires considerable time. I anticipate the pushback. Didn't you absorb the history? He shared with Reuters recently. Sure, but can you overhaul your entire sourcing in just 3 years? The Nexperia deficit compelled Nissan to reduce output. https Reuters.com Business Autos Transportation Nissan cut rogue production Japan over Nexperia fallout source says, 2025-11-05, of its best-selling Rogue SUV, https://business, autos transportation Nissan cut more output Kyushu plant chip supply troubles 2025-11-18. As reported by Reuters, and remains an ongoing threat for the year ahead, Conroy. The advisor recommends holding extra stocks of vital parts locally. Yet for an industry built on minimizing expenses through just-in-time methods, this proves pricey. Not every automaker suffered equally. Toyota requires https://reuters.com/business/autos transportation. How Toyota thrives when chips are down. 2021-309. Its suppliers to maintain months of chip buffers, a strategy crafted post the 2011 Japan earthquake catastrophe. Reuters detailed, a Toyota spokesperson warned of potential production impacts and vowed to keep a close eye on developments. The cost of resilience. A further complication arises in how chips integrate into vehicles. Nexperia semiconductors are common in modules that regulate power and are frequently directly attached via soldering. This makes them irreplaceable on the spot. Explained Nori Chiu, an investment expert at White Oak Capital Partners. Integrating a new part demands rigorous testing, potentially delaying alternatives by months, Chiu added. Nexperia's spokesperson emphasized that replacements aren't instantaneous, as seemingly similar chips can function differently in real-world use. Germany's Hella is scouting alternative vendors for Nexperia's chips, but verification and approval might stretch to a year, exceeding early estimates. A supply chain insider disclosed. Hella's representative stated they are pivoting to pre-approved secondary providers as feasible to ensure consistent access. Ancora Consulting's Montefar Helu warned that fortifying against chip vulnerabilities won't be straightforward or inexpensive. Everyone will resume discussions about enhancing durability, branching out sources, he predicted. Then, they'll grasp the true expense involved. $1 equals 0.8672 euros. Reporting by David Curtin and Nikoko Chan in Dongguan. Che Pan, Eduardo Baptista and Lori Chen in Beijing. Zhang Yan in Shanghai. Fanny Podkin in Singapore. Daniel Lusink in Tokyo. Additional reporting by Ilona Vissenbach in Frankfurt. Toby Sterling in Amsterdam. Gilles Guillaume in Paris. Aditi Shah in Tokyo. Writing by David Dolan. Editing by David Crawshaw and Lincoln Feast. Our Standards. The Thomson Reuters Trust Principles. Opens new tab. https://inaboutus/trustprinciples.html. And this is the part most people miss. While diversification sounds ideal, critics argue it could inflate costs and slow innovation, leading to higher car prices for consumers. Is Beijing's leverage a fair play in global trade or an unfair advantage? Do automakers deserve blame for not adapting faster, or is the system rigged against them? Weigh in below. What's your take on balancing resilience with affordability? Agree or disagree? Let's chat in the comments.